So, hi everybody. I want to welcome you to another testimonial with one of my clients that I've been working with, and this is Fenella. And she and I had just one conversation. We'd met in a book club I was doing on my book Painless, and then we just had this one conversation. It was so powerful that I really wanted to have her come and share with you what actually happened. So, Fenella, would you like to introduce yourself and just tell people briefly, about your pain history and how we came to meet?
Hi, so I'm Fenella. I have had pain in my neck much longer than I thought I had. When I sat and worked it out, it was probably for about 15 years.
Wow.
I went to osteopath, chiropractor, acupuncture, Pilates. It really made me think of all the different things I'd done.
Right.
Pilates, and then culminating in steroid injections in my neck. The osteopath, month in, month out, year in, year out, that stopped. My osteopath actually went to live in Israel, and so he stopped coming. And then I'd come across the principles by the time he left, so that actually made a big difference. But then the pain did start to get worse, so I started having, probably about 6 years ago now, I had my first injection in my neck, and sometimes they work and sometimes they don't. And then that was sort of where we were when we had our conversation. I was at the stage where the pain had really come back, but I'd seen an awful lot from reading your book and wanted to find a different solution.
Right. And do you think that, would you say it interfered with your lifestyle or work, or your pain?
Yeah, well, it definitely interfered with my work. I used to work sitting at a desk all day long using a mouse, and that undoubtedly exacerbated it. I did actually give up that job. That was only part of the reason, but I gave that job up. And obviously not sitting at a computer all day definitely made a difference, because looking at my x-rays, as far as I was concerned, I've got bone on bone, I've got this, I've got that. So actually, and spurs. So from my perspective, all of that sitting all day long for sure was going to aggravate it, and resting it and not using the computer very much definitely made a difference, but it never went.
Right.
It never went.
Right. Yeah. So I remember really clearly how we would, we just had a session like this, just talking. And it was right at the end of the session, and I said something like, so what happens when the pain comes? And you said something like, I mean, this is how I remember it, the conversation anyway. You said something like, oh, it comes every morning. And I asked you, and you said, like, so I said to you, what happens next? And you said something like, well, I have, you talked about the things that you do to cope with the pain. I said, no, I mean, what happens right next? Like when you wake up, and then what happens even before you get out of bed? And you said something like, well, I'm surprised because, I've done all these treatments and I've done all this stuff. And I said to you, why are you surprised? And I remember the look on your face. You kind of, I could see
exactly. Why? I had this pain for all of these years. Why am I surprised that some days it hurts?
Yeah.
And that definitely broke the spell. Definitely broke the spell as to, why am I surprised that I've got pain? Why do I make a thing about the fact that I've got pain? I've had pain for all of these years. I've spent years and years not only getting treatment for it, but in my head about it. Every day it really hurts. Maybe I'll go and get acupuncture. Maybe I should have another injection. And oh, now the pain's gone into my head. Oh my God, does that mean I've got a brain tumor? It was just layer upon layer upon layer of thinking about the fact that I had pain, which actually, truthfully, I'd had more or less every day for 15 years. Why the hell was I surprised?
Right.
And why did I have all of this thinking? Because none of that thinking made it better. Okay, if I went and had an injection, then in theory, the pain would go for X amount of time. But did I want that? And reading your book helped me see that all of that thinking was keeping me in that place. And it was just, when I think I mentioned to you, when I read the book, when I was reading the book, I had an insight about I had a whole COVID scare in my head. I didn't have COVID, but I made up this whole thing. And whilst reading the book, suddenly it was, oh my gosh, I'm just feeling all my thinking about this. Went to bed the next morning, got up, felt better than I'd felt in months. And then I joined your book club, and actually sitting in the book club, I started to see that, okay, so why'd I made this pain in my neck an exception? And it was like, so I decided that nerve pain was an exception. But after talking to you, seeing that actually, and I knew that it wasn't, but I couldn't see past that. And having that conversation was, it didn't matter whether it was nerve pain, muscle pain, imagined pain, real pain, made up pain, whatever pain it was still my thinking, my layers and layers of thinking about that pain.
Right.
And they've just fallen away. It's like someone pulled, and I likened it because I sit in my car and I realized that my brain is so much freer. I haven't got all of this stuff going on. And it's like, it's not like I did anything. It's like I had this big house of cards and I pulled out the one at the bottom and the whole lot just went, and it's the only way I can describe it. And now it's like,
I could see the look on your face. Something even just changed when I said that. Like,
that's the best. When you see someone's face go, that's the best.
Right? Like, why are you surprised? And I think I kept talking and I was saying something like, if you have a girlfriend who's always late, why are you surprised if she's always late? That's what, you always miss the train or you missed the beginning of the movie because your girlfriend's always late. Why are we surprised?
And I'm the kind of person that makes compensation for all of those things. And like, it's because of this, it's because, and we'll make that allowance for someone else.
Right.
But I wasn't able to, I just thought of that. I wasn't able to make that allowance for me.
Right.
Which now I have. And interestingly, I've seen that that's extended. That's really cool. And now, well, but as I said, I'm the kind of person who will, she's always late. What and not get into that about, they're this, they're what, which I did before a bit, but now I see that I don't. I'll make an excuse, for want of a better word, for everyone, but hadn't seen that I could make that allowance for myself.
And then I remember, and I remember the next day I messaged you and like to check in with how are you, and you wrote like this very succinct message. You said, "Not surprised, still sore." Like, okay,
yeah.
And then the day after you messaged me again, and you wrote, "Very surprised, not sore."
Not sore, and actually, sometimes I'm sore, and a lot of the time I'm not. But actually, both are fine because I'm not surprised if I am. And all of that, what should I do about it? What should I do about it? What should I do about it? What should I do? That's gone. Amazing. So therefore, I'm not in that pain the whole time. I'm just getting on with, and I got on with everything before, but with that, there was this ticker tape running across the bottom all the time. And that, it's like, and I find that ticker tape very distracting on the news. So it was just as distracting in my head. And I switched it off. And as I say, just layers of made up stuff and anxiety and all of that. And I can see that not having that layer of anxiety has allowed my body to calm down. Absolutely. I can feel that everything feels calmer. Physiologically, mentally, the whole thing feels very different.
Right. And it all came from an insight like that. And
absolutely.
That's why, that's why I wanted to have you come and talk about it, because I often have a hard time explaining to people there's nothing to do. Like, you didn't need to do any writing. You didn't need to do, I don't know if you've been for any treatment since then, but there's such little to do, and insight is so powerful that it can shift something. Because I remember you were pain-free for a while afterwards, and then
absolutely for about a month I was completely pain-free.
Amazing.
Which was unheard of.
Right.
Yeah.
And then life happens and things go on, and sometimes we get twinges. So it's such a blessing to hear that if you do have something, that it's not the same experience as you had before, I'm guessing.
Absolutely. No, it's completely different. And having that, it's like along the way I've had lots of different insights, and they've always been about things that I thought I've got. that I thought I'd maybe had an insight about, because I intellectually understood it, so decided that maybe that was an insight. But actually then I'll get the boom, that's what, and then it just, I think I said to you previously that I was managing my thinking far more than I thought I was, because I knew what I was supposed to do, if that makes sense. But actually once the insight comes, then it's like, oh, now I don't actually have to do anything, it just did it itself.
Right. Yeah.
It's almost like trying to push something over, and then once you stop trying to push it, then it just goes boop, and it's gone.
That's amazing. So now, like, I mean, how are you feeling now? Is it you know, you're able to do like anything, like things you want to do? Or you feel more free, more comfortable?
I definitely feel more free. The interesting thing is that I always had terrible problems turning my neck, and even when I've been in pain since, that tightness that was there, that's gone.
Wow.
That's gone. It's even when I've got the pain, everything feels looser. I don't feel that my whole body has become part of the pain. It's just the pain seems to be in the place that the pain is in. Does that make sense? It just even the pain itself feels very different.
Yeah, because
it feels gentler. I can't describe it. That's I don't know.
because pain is pain. All pain happens in the brain, and so the pain is like a signal, a message from your brain trying to keep you safe. Like it will stop, like in pain, it will stop you moving, because if there is damage there, then that's the way the body's intelligence works to protect you. So but I'm curious, like you said, you know, there are bone spurs and bone on bone.
Yeah.
How's that?
Well, it's there. It is there. I can't deny that it's not, because it is.
The same thing happened for me. Like the doctors often said that my back was unstable because I have one leg longer than the other. Well, I still have one leg longer than the other, and I don't have any pain. So I think it's good for people to hear that even though you have those, you know, documented things, like I'm guessing you have X-rays to, you know, show that the bone spurs and stuff are there, and yet you are so much better simply from an insight.
Absolutely. But I as you were talking, I can see that obviously any pain signal is going to be gentler, because my whole body is in a different state. I'm not in that continuous fight or flight thinking about it. So now that in itself is going to dull the message, or that's how it sounds to me, that the message gets cushioned.
How nice.
Yes, well, I think because for me, I can feel when my body is tense, so I've just made it like a loose trampoline, I suppose, rather than a really tight one that every time it hits it's really going to hurt. Now it's sort of like much more sounds ludicrous, but that's sort of what it feels like, that it's sort of bouncing off it rather than just thumping into it.
Right, which sounds so much safer. And because, you know, it's very human to get, you know, tense about things. Sometimes life, you know, still happens. And so now, like Sid Banks's famous quote was, you know, like, if we can just learn to not be afraid of our own experience. And that, you know, has happened for me with pain, and for like a lot of people like you that I've spoken to, where even if the pain flares up, you just don't have to be frightened by it anymore. And then it doesn't have a chance to, you know, stick around and grow into something.
Yes, that's exactly how it feels. It's just sort of, you know, part of my life. And the fact that it's just there, free to do what it wants, it doesn't bother me.
Wow, that's priceless.
Absolutely. I can't put a price on that.
Right. Wow. Well, I think that's a great place to end. That's such inspiring and hopeful, you know, for other people to hear that. So I really appreciate you sharing your time with us.
Oh, it's a pleasure. And thank you for pointing me in exactly the right direction to get those insights.
You're welcome.
Brilliant.
All right. Take care.
Thank you. You too.
Bye.
Bye.